Hi, it's Jill Osborne from the IC Network, and I'm here today in my office with another self-help tip on living with interstitial cystitis and bladder pain syndrome. Thought I would take a moment and talk a little bit about how to create an IC-friendly summer vacation. Now, a typical summer vacation for most American families means a long car ride. But of course, when you have IC, car rides can be a little bit scary and daunting because the vibration of the car can really jar the bladder and the pelvic floor and create pain and discomfort. So yesterday I was talking with a woman on the phone who is planning on driving up the California coast with her husband for her vacation, but they're being very smart about it, and that is they're breaking it into 2-hour sections, which is perfect. So when you can with car trips, try to keep them shorter rather than longer. The last thing we want you to do is power through a 10-hour drive feeling miserable, because that's just going to make your pain and make your bladder more irritated. Now, the second thing I want you to think about is having a car with a very smooth suspension, and usually this means a big American car. So if you have a choice between a little foreign car and a big American car, I want you to pick the big American car, even if it costs more for gas, because the secret here is we want a really smooth ride. Now, of course, if your little car has a smooth ride, go for it. But for the most part, IC patients tend to be more comfortable in the bigger cars. Now, of course, restroom access is vital when you're driving because, of course, hello, we have IC, we're going to need to go. And so if you're the driver, I need you to be sympathetic towards the IC patient. Don't ask them to hold it in a bouncing car. That's painful. Be prepared to stop. And luckily, we've got lots of Starbucks, lots of other fast food places that have great restrooms. But I know that there are some patients out there who are very reluctant to get started on a trip because you're afraid you're not going to find a restroom. But alas, there is an answer, and that is something called the travel john. Now listen, if you're stuck on a winding country road without a restroom, this is when you whip out a travel john. It's wonderful. It's a little plastic bag, hard plastic cover, fits perfectly in the crotch. You urinate into it, and the best thing about it is that there's a powder in it that immediately solidifies when urine hits it. So you don't have to worry about drips or anything like that. Then just simply put it in the next trash can. Easy, easy, easy. You can't let that stop you. And of course, whenever you're in a car and you're on a long trip, I really want you to stay with your IC-friendly snacks. This is not the time for a chocolate bar. This is the time for perhaps a pear or a mild sweet apple instead. Now let's talk about plane flights for a moment. Now, I've been able to fly to Europe and back with my IC, but it does certainly take a little bit of extra planning and you being a bit assertive at the airport. So number one, I want you to make sure that you get a seat on an aisle, because you need to be able to get out of your seat quickly. The second thing I want you to do is try to get a seat as near to the restroom as you can. And if this means that you have to sit in the back of the plane, do it. It's worth it in the long run. And then, of course, what I do when I travel is when I make my reservation, I let them know I have a disability and may need restroom access, so my reservation has that note on it. Then when I get to the airport, I tell the check-in clerk, and most importantly, when I get in the plane, I pull the flight attendant aside for my area, and I let them know that I have IC. I might give them my medical alert card, I may give them my restroom access card, or a letter from my doctor. But I really want to get that person on my side and let her know that it's real, and that if I need to go, to please let me go. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, it works just fine. Now, one of the things that I do on trips, especially plane trips, is I pre-medicate. And ironically, it's not for the plane, it's for the bus ride to the airport, because it takes me about 2.5 hours by bus to get to my nearest airport, and that bus ride tends to really exacerbate my IC. So before I leave the house, I use a little bit of a muscle relaxant, and in my case that's Flexeril. and I might use a little bit of pain medication so that I can stay ahead of and on top of the pain. So I encourage you to call your doctor ahead of time, let them know that you're going to go on a trip and that you might want to have a little bit of medication to help you get through that journey. There's no reason why you can't ask it. You've got nothing to lose, so go for it. Now, let's assume then that you've gotten to wherever you're going, whether it's a cabin or a place on the beach. While you're there, I want you to remember a couple of things. Number one, stick with your diet. This is not the time to do nachos and spicy food and margaritas. You know, let's keep your bladder fairly calm and collected. Of course, you can get more diet info on our website. Number two, be careful with swimming pools because some people tend to be a little bit chlorine sensitive, especially in something like a hot tub where you know they use a lot of chemicals. It's always good, you know, to get out of the pool as quickly as you can and rinse yourself off. Don't sit around in your wet swimsuit because that leaves extra chlorine that might irritate you. Remember, too, to stay hydrated. The more water you drink, the more dilute your urine is going to be. You don't want your urine to get super concentrated, so make sure you keep drinking water. And then last but not least, remember that there are some medications out there that might make you a little bit more heat intolerant, like hydroxyzine, which I know for me when I was taking it, made it very difficult if the temperature was more than 90 degrees. So you might want to talk to your doctor about a medication option if you're going to be in a hot area. So anyway, I hope that those little tips help. You deserve a great summer vacation, and I truly wish that for you. If you're looking for any more information on IC, please come visit our website at www.ic-network.com.